Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Okay, everybody, I'm Tarhaka Amana El Bey, and tonight my special guest will be Dr. Walter Williams, and we will be dealing with who are the Arabs and where did they come from. This is a remake. We're going to lay it out here for you tonight, but before I get started, I'm going to go over here to these commercials, and then we're going directly into a plug because I was speaking to a gentleman, and he was trying to tell me about the original inhabitants when it comes to the Arabs. So we want to play a little bit of that and give my guest time to get in here. Dr. Walter Williams, The Historical Origins of Christianity and The Historical Origins of Islam. He's the author of both books. Okay? All right. So y'all sit tight for a minute, and we will be right back. Just hold on a minute.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chantel, and the time for becoming a secured party and creditor is now. To do it right, go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka, learn how to be a creditor, learn how to live in the private, find out what private banking is all about. Learn about being in your proper status in commerce. Learn what a national and diplomat is all about. www.newdebtelimination.org.
Hey everybody, this is Tarhaka again. I would like to introduce you to the Great Debate. We now have copies of the Great Debate. Dr. Walter Williams debates Prince Ezio ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. Also, Reverend Henry Hardy of one of the most prominent churches in Chicago, Illinois. Chester Blair, a major attorney in Chicago. And Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. The whole thing is hosted by W.L. Lillard. Dr. Walter Williams debate these men on their belief versus what he knows for a fact and he can prove. Get your copy by going to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org, or you can go to newdebtelimination.com. newdebtelimination.com. Contact me for your copies. Okay? The Great Debate. You got any questions, just give me a shout. Peace. Okay, before we go any further, let me straighten that last part out until I can switch that commercial. That's newdebtelimination.org. newdebtelimination.org, not newdebtelimination.com. We're going to get rid of that one. newdebtelimination.org. Now, what we're going to do here this evening, because I was talking to a brother, and he was telling me that I needed to check this plug out, and he's saying what the original inhabitants looked like when it came to Arabs. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this here. My guest is not in yet, so I got plenty of time to do this here. Y'all hold on. And it might be a good idea if you get your paper and pencil handy this evening, because the brother's going to drop a lot of information, and this stuff needs to be verified. So make sure you got paper and pencil handy. Y'all hold on a minute.
The original black African Arabs of Arabia. If one understood Arab culture, it is immediately apparent that blackness is highly cherished conceptually and in reality. In Arab culture, the best camel is the black one, the best fig is the blackest, the best eyes are black, the best olives are black, the most beautiful rock is the black Kaaba. Any Bedouin Arab that is asked his color, would undoubtedly respond asmar or aswad, which means black or brown. No Arab ever describes himself as beaten, which means white. Who are the Arabs? In today's world, one is seductively led by the racist Western media to believe that the Arabs of Arabia and Africa represent a peculiar phenotype, with all other non-conforming types being somewhat alien to that concept. In this way they impose a certain Central Asian phenotype as the racial Arab and the almost ubiquitous black Arabs of the modern times as either descendants of slaves or immigrants. In this way, they attempt to disconnect the linkage between the ancient Cushitic black Arabs globally celebrated in antiquity, now reclassified as some Caucasoid Semitics, and their Cushitic African roots. This video is therefore another blow against the citadel of falsehood erected by the Western intelligentsia, used to discourage, disempower, dissipate and diffuse the energy of the black nation. Again, one notes and deplores the unrelenting effort by non-continental peoples to appropriate the history and the achievements of brilliant black African luminaries as their own. Much confusion attends the word Arabs, because it has not always been used with rigorous consistency. Moreover, in the wake of the global dominance of the Arab culture and Islamic political power in the between 780 and 1480, the number of Arabs increased exponentially by the addition of many non-Arab Arabized people, because acculturation and assimilation were deliberately fostered by state policy. Today, the word Arabs does not strictly imply or designate any known racial category of people. It is an ethnic identification that has several aspects, including linguistics, politics and genealogy. Its meaning is nuanced depending on the particular context. As an ethnic identity, an Arab is someone who considers himself to be an Arab regardless of racial or ethnic origin. This definition encompasses many Africans, Indians, Indonesians and Chinese who describe themselves as Arabs. Usually the first language of persons who claim to be Arab is Arabic. There are over 200 million people worldwide whose first language is Arabic. Again, these people spread over a large portion of the globe, spanning from Central Africa to Central Asia. More than 70% of the so-called Arabs in the world live physically in Africa. Given that the Arabic language is a Semitic language, which forms part of the Afro-Asia language family, which originated in Africa, one can rightly view Arabic as an African language. Of the official languages of the African Union that include English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic, Arabic language is the only Afro-Asiatic language spoken. The rest are Euro-Aryan English, French, Spanish and Portuguese. Viewed from a political perspective, someone who is a resident or citizen of a country where Arabic is an official or national language, or is a member of the Arab League or is part of the wider Arab world, is an Arab. This definition would cover more than 300 million people. Under this definition, there are more Arabs in Africa than anywhere else in the universe. Most of those Arabs that live in Africa are black Africans, from Chad, Nigeria, Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea, Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, Algeria and Morocco. Many of them trace their ancestry to Yemen. On its formation in 1946, the Arab League defined an Arab as a person whose language is Arabic, who lives in an Arabic-speaking country, who is in sympathy with the aspirations of the Arabic-speaking peoples. The Arab League's definition of an Arab leaves no room for any racialist twist on the meaning of Arab and Arabic. These words simply denote ethnicity. Yet again, Based upon this definition, there are more black Africans who have a legitimate claim to the Arabic ethnicity than anywhere else in the world. According to Habib Hassan Toma, 1996, PXVIII, an Arab, in the modern sense of the word, is one who is a national of an Arab state, has command of the Arabic language, and possesses a fundamental knowledge of Arabian tradition, that is, of the manners, customs, and political and social systems of the culture. Here again, one finds that there are more black African Arabs based on this definition than any other regional phenotype that lays claim to that heritage. A hadith related by Ibn Asakir in Tariq Damashq and attributed to Islam's Prophet Muhammad states that, being an Arab is not because of your father or mother, but being an Arab is on account of your tongue. Whoever learns Arabic is an Arab. Genealogically, an Arab is someone who can trace his or her ancestry back to the original inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula. Different groups estimate the relative importance of these factors differently. Most people who consider themselves Arabs do so on the basis of the overlap of the political and linguistic definitions. Since there are so many different phenotypes all considered as Arabs, the query posed and answered by this paper then is, who are the original Arabs? Were they black or black and white? It is posited here that the original Arabs were black African Cushites from the Nile Valley who had settled in Southwest Asia in the Arabian Peninsula in ancient times. Black Arabs and classical literature up to a century and a half ago. Our information concerning Arabia was based mainly on Greek and Latin writers, such as Herodotus, Histories, Diodorus Siculus, Bibliotheca Historica, Strabo, Geography, Book 16, Pliny, Ptolemy, and others. All those writers reported without any equivocation that Arabia was part of the ancient kingdom of Ethiopia Kush, extending from Africa into Solomon Islands. Later Arabic writers and geographers, such as Hamadane's Arabian Peninsula, Bikri and Yakut's geographical and historical dictionaries, and similar works also provide extremely valuable. However, those works are to be treated with caution because they contain fabulous and legendary traditions, partly based on native popular legends and partly on Jewish and rabbinical fancies. From the available literature and authorities, historians have broadly divided Arabs into three classes according to their different great ancestors. They are, the original black Arabs who were supposedly punished by destruction and deluge because, as legend has it in the Book of Quran, they disobeyed their prophets and flouted God's instructions. They were, Ad, Tamid, Tazam, Jadius, Imru. The classical black Arabs, who are believed to have descended from Yarab ibn Yashjub ibn Gatan and thus called Ghataniyun. They had lived in the Yemen. They included a number of tribes and sub-tribes, two of which became historically prominent viz. Himyar and Kalan, al-Arab al-Ariba. The Arabized Arabs, these tribes immigrated into Arabia from different sections of Central Asia. Many of them intermarried with the desert-dwelling nomadic Blemmais the Bajas, original Bedouin Arabs, and the Somali, Kenyan and Ethiopian tribes of Africa. Their mix, blood children who adopted a mingled form of their parents' cultures are known as the Arabized Arabs, al-Arab al-Mustariba. Today, upon the dictates of the Western intelligentsia, this batch is the so-called prototypical Arabs. They are the picture boys of the white Semitic theories which seek to claim that some white or at the very least some off-white people were and remain the original and only Arabians. By employing vague and non-categorical semantics with words like Semites, Hamites, Ishmaelites, Caucasoids, the Western negrophobic intelligentsia and educational establishment seek to erase every trace of black Africa from Arabia. Nonetheless, if one understood Arab culture, it is immediately apparent that blackness is highly cherished conceptually and in reality. In Arab culture, the best camel is the black one, the best fig is the blackest, the best eyes are black, the best olives are black, the most beautiful rock is the black Kaaba. Any Bedouin Arab that is asked his color, would undoubtedly respond Asmar or Aswad, which means black/brown. No Arab ever describes himself as beaten, which means white, because they all understand instinctively if not consciously that Africa is their root. There you have it. KIK, knowledge is king, Get into the know. Peace.
Wow, man, this is unbelievable. And this has been going on for quite some time because I remember back in the day, in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, well, they came out with this movie about Lawrence of Arabia. And all the images that we see of this guy, I think his name was Peter O'Toole, this Caucasian is supposed to be Lawrence of Arabia, but it was never told to us, or never shown to us, or no movie ever presented to us about the original and the real Arabs. This has never been shown to us. And today, we have all of these so-called Arabs in our community owning the stores and all of these things and passing themselves off as Arabs. And from what I've been told, because I've never actually experienced it, but I've had quite a few people tell me, because I haven't experienced it yet, they're very disrespectful toward our people. Now, I haven't experienced that. I'm just going on what people have told me about these people in our neighborhoods owning stores and taking the money that they earn from us out of our community and being disrespectful at the same time. I have yet to experience it. I haven't experienced it yet because I'm not going to say one word. I'm going to say now word. But anyway, this is amazing, man. The brother kept trying to get me to deal with this thing. I'm still waiting on my guest, Dr. Walter Williams, to call into the broadcast. I spoke to him earlier. We'll be ready to go this evening. But in the meantime, I got to check some more of this right here out. Y'all got to hold on.
In 1842 CE, the British Consul General in Morocco wrote a letter to the Sultan to ask him if he had taken any measures to stop slavery, or at least slave trade. The Sultan replied that he did not do anything about it because it had been the norm since the time of the sons of Adam, and no sects of Islam are against it. Hence, he will not permit anything that the Quran forbids, and will not make anything unlawful that the Quran has allowed. In the Sultan's reply, we see the simplest justification, or at least excuse, for almost 1,300 years of slavery in the Islamic world. This video is part of a bigger collaboration between various YouTube history channels on the topic of Africa. Don't forget to watch the video before this one by Stefan Milo on the Swahili culture. First of all, I've chosen to call this trade the Arab slave trade because Arabs were a key part of this network. Arabs weren't the only people involved in this trade, but still, most of the rulers and raiders involved in the process were Arabs. Most of the important markets were in Arab cities as well. I didn't call it the East African slave trade because it wasn't just done through East Africa. Other trade routes were involved as well. Slavery was already practiced in Arabia and most of the areas that the Muslims conquered in the 7th and 8th centuries. Islam did not abolish slavery, but some regulations were set which were increased upon by the caliphs. There were 4 ways someone could end up a slave. First, a child born to slave parents was a slave. Secondly, someone captured in a jihad against non-Muslims could be made a slave. Third, a slave could be purchased. Or finally, a slave could be given as a tribute. The people living under Islamic rule, Muslim or non-Muslim, could not be enslaved unless they rebelled, or they helped an enemy of the state. Bernard Lewis writes, slaves were excluded from religious functions or from any office involving jurisdiction over others. Their testimony was not admitted at judicial proceedings. In penal law, the penalty for an offense against a person, a fine, or bloodwit was, for a slave, half of that for a free man. While maltreatment was deplored, there was no fixed penalty. In what might be called civil matters, the slave was a chattel with no legal powers or rights whatsoever. He could not enter into a contract, hold property, or inherit. If he incurred a fine, his owner was responsible. He was, however, distinctly better off in the matter of rights compared to a Greek or a Roman slave, since Islamic jurists, and not only philosophers and moralists, took down accounts of humanitarian considerations. They laid down, for example, that a master must give his slave medical attention when required, must give him adequate upkeep, and must support him in his old age. If a master defaulted on these and other obligations to his slave, the Qadi could compel him to fulfill them, or else either to sell or emancipate the slave. The master was forbidden to overwork his slave, and if he did so to the point of cruelty, he was liable to a penalty which was, however, discretionary and not prescribed by law. A slave could enter into a contract to earn his freedom, in which case his master had no obligation to pay for his upkeep. While in theory the slave could not own property, he could be granted certain rights of ownership, for example, for which he paid a fixed sum to his master. In the Islamic world, various ethnicities were enslaved, not just people of African descent. In fact, they were all considered to have their own advantages. Ibn Batlan, in his handbook, tries to characterize them. He recommends Indians and Nubians as guards of persons or property, as laborers, servants, and eunuchs. He recommends Zanj, and as slaves, Turks and Slavs. Yes, even white people could be enslaved. However, there was a distinction between them. The white slaves were called Mamluk, or owned, and the black slaves were called Abd, which means slave. Where white slaves could rise up to respectable positions, the black slaves could not. The Mamluks had their own dynasties in Egypt and India, but the Abd slaves never did. In fact, even in literature or poetry, we hardly find an example of a black man, slave or otherwise, after the Umayyads. Even free Muslim people weren't all treated fairly across the Muslim world, but as always, there were exceptions. An early chronicler, Jashiyari, writes an anecdote about a man called Abdul Hamid, who was apparently the secretary of the last Umayyad caliph. The story goes that the caliph had received a gift of a black slave from a provincial governor. The caliph was unhappy with him and told his secretary to write a letter of gratitude and disparagement. Abdul Hamid wrote, "Had you been able to find a smaller number than one and a worse color than black, you would have sent that as a gift." This story, along with many others, show that Arabs didn't view African slaves particularly nicely and preferred other ethnicities if they could get them. Even in the times of Prophet Muhammad, Byzantine and Persian slaves were found in Arabia. Africans were just one of various slaves available. However, over time the number of black slaves grew disproportionately. Main reason for that was the stabilization of the frontiers. Turks and Indians started to embrace Islam, and so not many of them could be enslaved. And as jihad slowed down after the 8th century, so did the number of non-white slaves. Mostly against Byzantine and other European states, captured prisoners were ransomed or exchanged. While it's easy to say that the distinguishing factor between slaves and non-slaves was religion and not race, that's not all that true. The ruler of Bornu, for example, complained in a letter to the Sultan in Egypt about how the slave trades were ravaging Bornu and enslaving free men, even members of the ruler's family and Muslims. While it was forbidden to enslave Muslims, in practice, if you were a black Muslim, you could be enslaved. Very early on, the Muslims signed a treaty with Nubia, where Nubia would provide slaves in exchange for peace. This was probably the reason that Nubia was not taken over by the Muslims for quite a while. However, conquests across the Sahara opened trade routes across the African continent. And among the things transported across the routes were religion, ideas, and unfortunately, slaves. Muslim Arabs bought slaves from these routes all across northern Africa and brought them back into the Islamic heartland. This started almost right after the conquests and the subsequent stabilization of the frontiers. The coast of the Zanj, modern Kenya and Tanzania, was used by the Arabs to bring slaves to Yemen, and from there Oman and the Persian Gulf, and cities like Basra and Baghdad is where they were sold to the Muslims. Somalis, before they were Islamized, were a large number of slaves imported, and later interior peoples were exported as slaves from the Somali coast to cross into Yemen, and from there via Mecca, Damascus, and Baghdad. In Mesopotamia, a large number of Zanj slaves were used in thousands of plantations and saltpeter mines. Apparently, the working conditions were so terrible that they revolted numerous times between 868 CE and 883 CE and became a serious threat to the Caliphate. This went on for centuries and became a system, but it wasn't as severe as it later grew into. At the time, various African tribes raided each other and enslaved the prisoners, selling them on the frontiers of the Islamic Empire. From here, Arabs took over and took these slaves inland to be sold on the borders, but also in India and across the Mediterranean. Unfortunately, the holiest site in the Islamic world, Mecca, became a bustling market for slave trading. People bought slaves in this market when they visited for Hajj, the Islamic pilgrimage. Slaves were brought there as a commodity which could be sold to get some cash. They were easier to protect than other precious commodity in a huge caravan, so people brought them along. People also brought them in Mecca since people from all over the world would gather there. All the way up to 1962 CE, slaves were being sold in Mecca. In The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa, John Elambila Azuma writes the following. The main area from which slaves were drawn and exported to Egypt and other North African Muslim locations and then to the Islamic wider world were the central and western Sudan. The traffic started mainly from Nubia, from which the people living to the south and east of Dongola were taken to Egypt. Slaves were exported also from Kanem Borno via Fezzan to Cairo, Tripoli and Kairouan. People groups living around the Lake Chad area were later exported along this route. While in the 18th and 19th centuries, Bagirmi slaves, especially eunuchs, formed an important part of the slave traffic along this route. Some were later sent from Tripoli to ports in modern Turkey, Greece, Albania, and southern Yugoslavia, which were all at the time under the Ottoman Empire. Slaves from the Middle Niger and the Atlantic coast were also drawn from Gao, Yavargla to Tahret in modern Algeria, and Kairouan, and later from Timbuktu through Tuwat to Tlemcen, Sijilmasa, Fez, and other centers of the Muslim Maghreb, from where some passed into Muslim Spain and Sicily when it was under Muslim domination between the 9th and 11th centuries. Ibn Khaldun testifies to the presence of large slave populations in the 14th century in North Africa, when he wrote that the blacks constituted the ordinary mass of slaves. Muslim Berber groups of North Africa, like the Tuareg and the Moors, became the chief agents in the raiding and in the traffic of black slaves to North Africa, Spain, Turkey, and the Mediterranean world, some of whom were taken as far as India. As early as the 8th century, the Berber Ibadi community of North Africa virtually controlled the trade routes and thus the traffic in black slaves. Considering the terrible conditions on these routes and the increasingly predatory nature of the slave raids, one historian estimates that for every slave that was sold in the market, 10 had died on the way there. These raids were also labeled jihad by raiders to legitimize them. Neither the Muslim raiders nor the buyers of the slaves really cared about who the slaves were and where they came from. The Swahili coast became a bustling hub of slave trading. A network was established across the Indian Ocean and the Persian Gulf. In the 18th and 19th century, when ivory trade was on the rise, these slaves were also forced to carry ivory and other precious commodities on their way to the markets by the raiders. It was during those centuries that the slave trade reached its peak. From around 1800 CE to 1850 CE, most European countries abolished slavery, and the slave trade started to die on the western side. However, on the east, it was picking up further. The British did try to have countries abolish it, but it didn't work. Not only did it not work, but it probably had the opposite effect. The colonization was taking place, and a lot of these countries exported slaves. Muslim Borno, for example, entered into a trade deal with the Ottoman Empire to provide them slaves. Muslim Africa ravaged the continent and raided deep into it. The stories of these raids are disturbing, to say the least. Most Muslim rulers of the region were interested in slavery because it was profitable. There weren't many advocating for abolition, even though in Europe slavery had mostly died out. The British could not force the rulers to do away with slavery. However, by the end of the 19th century, Africa was almost entirely colonized and the slave trade was put to an end. Muslim states of Middle East were breaking into chaos. The Ottoman Empire was the sick man of Europe. The Europeans were isolating countries that still practiced slavery. All these factors combined put a slow end to the slave trade by 1950 CE. It was outlawed in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. That's amazing. I see I got a caller with his hand raised at area code 646, and we're going to open up your phone line. I'm looking for my guest to call in here, and so just hold tight if you're not my guest. Area code 646. Tell me who you are, where you're calling from. 646. Okay, no 646. All right, let's get this here open here. All right. I've gotten a couple of calls from my guest here, and I'm going over here and see what is the situation about. Let me see here. Bring that up right there. Y'all hold on, bear with me for a moment, and I'm trying to see what my guest is talking about here. Okay, let me open that up and see what he's saying now, so I'll know what to do. Okay, come on. Let me get over here. Your message could not be delivered to this number. Okay. All right, Dr. Williams, please text me. Okay, please text me. Okay. Yeah, text me. Okay. All right. Going down here to area code 609. 609, you're on the air. Tell me who you are, where you're calling from, what's your question or comment. 609.
Okay.
You're on the air.
Yeah, Okay, 609. I'm calling from New Jersey, and
oh, okay.
I was listening. Yeah, I was listening to the commentaries that you played. Two different people talking like about history, but a lot of the things that they were saying, and a lot of the places that they were identifying, we know from being corrected by Dr. Walter Williams that those places are just what they call, what Dr. Williams calls pseudo-picographer history, false history. Mesopotamia, Persia, and all these dates he was given, like once that the slavery was taking place, like when the Muslims were doing this and that. In the years that he's talking about, there was no Islam. Islam didn't even have a Quran until, according to Dr. Williams, around the later half of the 1800s, and then they voted on it and approved it, I think in 1927 or something, the Quran, according to Dr. Williams, but I'm not, I'm just quoting Dr. Williams from the book and from what I heard him say, so a lot of the stuff that people are repeating, they're using like biblical literature based on the Talmud and some of these religious books, and it's all like fiction. It's nothing true, like nothing that you could that you can verify. These things are just, they keep repeating Jewish thought, espousing Jewish thought. That's all that they're doing, which is nothing but fiction. It's based on fictional stories created by Europeans out of northern France, according to Dr. Williams, And so therefore...
Okay. Well, hold that thought right there for a second. Let me try this one more time. Area code 646, last four numbers, 8373. You on the air? Can you hear me? 646. You on the air?
Yes. Hi, Takara. How are you?
I'm fine. Who am I speaking to?
This is Earlene.
Hey, Earlene. Welcome. Come on in, sister. And
thank you.
You are author of two books. You want to give us the title of your books and how folks can get a hold of them books?
Well, I just want to check you out for a minute, and before you hang up, I can do that. But I want to check you out. I was listening to you and the young man that was on there. I just came in not too long ago, and I just and before I leave out, yes, I can definitely.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and mute your mic and finish talking to my brother. I'm waiting on my guest to arrive, and he has called me twice. And I requested that he text me, but I haven't gotten a text from him. I don't know what's going on. I spoke to him earlier, and he's usually here by now. But anyway, Brother 609, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Okay. Yeah, so Earlene, you said she wrote two books. Is that history?
Yeah, she said she's going to give us the title of the book later on in the broadcast.
So it's
what I want to
history.
know, I got several questions here. Number one, what is an Arab? Number two, who were the original people of Arabia? Number three, who are the people on the land today calling themselves Arabs? Who are the people in the United States today referred to as Arabs? And what is the true historicity of the Arab? Now, I know you've read Dr. Williams' book, and have you done any further research on the Arabs outside of Dr. Williams' book?
Yes, I have listened to a lecture by Dr. John Henry Clark, and he was saying that, like, the Arabs were initially a nomadic, white, savage people, and they started dribbling into Africa, and then they started mixing. At first, they weren't like that many of them, and until they built up some numbers, of these, like what you call half-breed like type, and then they started using their half-breed offspring to do their devilish to enslave people, and started doing various things, trying to take over, like, and like kidnap people and all kinds of stuff, and then bring them back to certain places to sell them. Like, that's how they got started. Like, but before, when they first came in, they were just savage, hungry people that were, like in the Africans, being a benevolent people, they take care of anybody, and they fed these people and gave them land and did their various things. Like, they did that for anybody that came in there. And like after they started to build up numbers, like, then they started to assert their, the lighter pigment as being superior, and exploiting Africans, using that as a basis to exploit the African people. That's what Dr. Henry Clark.
Well, I've seen this this thing, this attitude about being superior, and how people use that. Because I was talking to a gentleman one time. He owned a store down the road, and I came in the building and wearing my Egyptian attire and stuff. And some kind of way we got in a conversation, me and this guy, and he started stating, "Well, I'm from Benin, and my country was never colonized." This was, he kept saying that as if to say, since our country was never colonized, I'm better than you. And I'm trying to figure that. Now, he didn't say that, but this is what I was getting from this guy. This was his attitude, because he kept saying, "Well, I know one thing, my country was never colonized." Okay, so since you was from a place that was never colonized, what exactly, how does that make you some kind of special? Because I'm trying to figure out why you keep telling me that, as if to say that's supposed to make you something special. I'm trying to figure it out. What are you trying to say exactly? And along that time, here comes a Caucasian gentleman out the back, rolling a cart full of Coca-Cola that he done dropped off from the Coca-Cola company. And I told the guy, I said, "You see him?" I said, "He ain't got no history." I said, "So what are you saying?" I thought, "Well, I don't know one thing. My country would never colonize." So what that's supposed to mean? So what? It makes you what? Exactly. Because I've discovered that there are a lot of them over here with the attitude that I'm better than you. This is attitude they come with. And of course they don't mess with me, because I don't waste no time. I just you gotta. There ain't no sense in all them doggone police and rescue units coming. But anyway, these people here, and they all over this city that I live in. They all over the country and stuff. And they come from different countries. Some of them come from India. Some of them, and I've heard a lot of reports about the Asians. A lot of people, man, it's when I used to go in these restaurants and stuff, I never had a problem. It never came off in no disrespectful manner to me. But I've heard a lot of stories, and it seems that based on what I'm hearing from people, that they have these type of attitudes.
Right. But and also I've heard the same thing from a lot of the Ethiopians that live in D.C. and New York. I meet a lot of them, and they claim that they're different from the other blacks, which, the reason that an Ethiopian is different, they're not the original Ethiopians that, when they had the country of Kush, and they built the the monuments at Lalibela and all that. That was Black African people, but that's one of the first places that a lot of mixing took place. So they're like the average Ethiopian that you see. They're more like the Puerto Ricans of Ethiopia, because they're not original 100%. They're mixed. They're mixed because the Arab savages, like that's one of the first places when they came from Yemen and from the Arabian Peninsula, or like what Dr. Williams says, come out of these Azerbaijan and Russia and all those places. One of the first places and Afghanistan too, the mountains, like one of the first places that when they did come to Africa was Ethiopia, even before I think the Greeks invaded, like around 332 BCE. But you had like other, but I don't know really. But the mixing that took place in Africa, that was one of the first places, was Ethiopia, and that's why you see a lot of the Ethiopians walking around here today. They got the straight hair like a white man or a white woman or whatever, and they think that they're like, just like Puerto Ricans, they swear that they got these European characteristics, the hair and stuff like that. They feel that that makes them superior over the original people, But that's the ignorance that they learn, right?
Okay. Well, I seen it's only been one situation that I witnessed, and I came into this store, and these people here, as far as I was concerned, they was Arab. I didn't know no better, but one of them said something out the way to this young lady. And this girl here, she was running out the door as I was coming in. And I walked around in there, picking up little items and stuff, trying to get me some snacks and stuff to go home and watch TV back in the day. But all of a sudden, this big old brother walked up in there and had that little girl with him. He said, and the brother had a 45 in his hand. He said, "Which one of them said it?" He said, "That right there." And the brother went to moving around, because he was finna kill him, right there on the spot. But the dude ran in the back and slammed the door and locked himself up back in the back. Mm-hmm. And now the brother said, "You're gonna have to leave the building sooner or later. We're gonna be here when you come out." And I said, "Wow, what the heck happened?" I said, "Man," but this brother right here, man, he was finna. He was, as soon as she pointed, he was raising the gun. He finna bust a cap in him, but he ducked and run and run back in the back and landed there and lighted back there. I said, "Great day." So after it cooled down, I went like the building. I said, "Well, I ain't coming back in here no more. I don't know what he did or what he said, but he sure messed with the wrong one that time." But nevertheless, we got this situation, and I be checking them out, and I start, as I learn different things, I watch people closely and pay attention to their actions and their attitudes, and I'm not, I haven't been going to the restaurants and stuff, I got out of that, and I rather just fix my own food because, I stopped eating meat. Right. I might eat a little fish or something like that, but as far as just going out to the restaurants and patronizing, I don't do none of that no more, man. And smart. I can only go on what people tell me about certain things because I don't bite my tongue. You can't stand there in front of me and tell a pack of lies, and I know you're lying about who you're supposed to be and all this right here. I ain't with that, man. I straighten that mess out immediately. So the best thing to do is I don't even go in there, and that way there ain't no problem because I believe in solving problems immediately. I don't So the best thing for me to do is stay from out of there because I know myself. But what else you want to lay on me, brother?
Well, as far as the education of people in general, like the white culture, European, Eurocentric institutions, Western academia, they have brainwashed everybody to make actually a white person is a human being that has suffered a deficit, like that ecologically were altered and they lost a part of what the original human being had, like pigmentation, by being caught into the ice age. Therefore, we are the 100%. The African is the 100% original and 100% human, and anybody other than an African, their features represent deficits. Their hair and their lack of pigmentation. And the proof that I offer prove that is, a black person can be any of the others, but none of the others could ever wake up and say that they want to be black, But you can always get rid of something. If you got something that is like if I had $100 bill, I can always get 10s and 20s, and the same thing with black. You can, just like Michael Jackson, he decided he wanted to be white, I guess, and he spent money, and he looked like he was almost like a white man when he died and stuff, like based on what he originally. But a white man could never do that. Not in a million years could they wake up and decide that they want to get pigmentation. There's no chemical formula to allow them to, to alter their hair. They can't get the hair that we got. We can get their hair any day of the week if you want to use a hot comb or whatever, chemicals or whatever, but there is no chemical formula for a white man to wake up and say he wants to be black or to have the pigmentation or the hair characteristics that a black person has. That's what we never realized, that we are the top of the human chain, which means you can always.
Well, you know what though? Now, it was this guy. I think his name. Don't quote me on his first name, but I know his last name was Griffin. He was a Caucasian. He wrote a book called Black Like Me, and where he had got with these doctors, and they was giving him some kind of injections or some kind of stuff to, and it didn't last long. It was way off over a period of time, but he was trying to get down into finding out how our people were being treated compared to how Caucasians were treating one another. And, it was amazing the stuff that he said he went through doing his investigation, and then he messed around in some kind of way. White folks found out what he was doing. Boy, look at him. They hung up an effigy in the town. They said, "We're going to kill you."
Right.
He had to leave town, man, because they're going to kill him. That was amazing. It's called Black Like Me, and it was written by a guy named Griffin. You can go on. It appears that my guest is in the Q Brothers, so I'm going to mute your mic and I'll let my guest in, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. Air code 773. Dr. Walter Williams, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. I seen where you was trying to call me, but I couldn't switch over. The only thing I could do is just send you a text message for you to text me. But we're still here. We're waiting on you. And we're ready to go, man.
Okay. Well, how long have you been on?
Well, I've been on since 7. And since 7 o'clock. And
well, the Blog Talk lady was telling me that no shows were scheduled for the next 24 hours.
Because you haven't, you didn't turn them clocks back where you had them to go. That's why I told you that. You don't mess around and mess with them clocks. So we back But anyway, you on here now, so we ready to roll.
Okay, how long have you been on now for my information?
It's 7:50 now. I've been on for almost an hour.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
But that's okay. That's okay. You're here with us, man. We was good. I was talking to the brother, and we was talking about the Arabs and stuff. And so we good. We ready to hear what you got to say about this thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the
so
Arabs
what have you been talking about? Blame the speed on it.
Well, I ran a couple of plugs, and of course they was giving us this falsification of history with from history from a Quran standpoint and the biblical, and all of the usual stuff they do. But they were saying that the original people that are called Arabs were of African descent. And that was the main thrust of the plug that I run, and how they managed to get into the mix, come in and start saying they supposed to be some type of superior somebody or something. But I would like to know the historicity of the situation from your point of view. You wrote a book called The Historical Origins of Islam. And so I want to hear what you have to say on the subject. Okay,
well, what happened is that what you've been playing and what the people have been saying on the recordings of what you've been saying is historically way historically incorrect.
Okay.
So we're going to get down to the origin of who and what and where did Arabs come from? Okay, from the very beginning, historical beginning. But first I want to tell the listening audience about my the DVD that I have out called The Great Debate. And that Great Debate tape is, as you know, is a very historical tape because on that tape, which was recorded 28 years ago in Chicago, I'm debating 5 people, including the host of the television show. I was on television in Chicago, my hometown. And on that great debate, I debated a brother by the name of Prince Othniel ben Israel, who is of the Black Hebrew Israelite community that was headed by Ben Ami. And I debated a Christian minister who has a big church right here in Chicago, Reverend Henry Hardy. And then I debated a Muslim who was from the Nation of Islam by the name of Munir Muhammad. And I debated a lawyer by the name of Chester L. Blair when I made the statement that we Africans born in the United States of America are not citizens of this country due to the Constitution that was drawn up in 1787. And that still stands today, that we're not citizens of this country. So, and then the fifth person was the host himself, W.L. Lillard, who set all this up. And we had a big audience in the studio that evening. And he set it up for me to be demolished by all of the other 4 guests that he invited, plus himself. So, but it backfired on him. So that great debate tape, I think it's available through your medium. Is that correct, Brother Tarhaka? Yes, sir. In order for them to get a copy of the download, all they got to do is go to www.newdebtelimination.org, and it's listed there. You scroll down, you see it listed there, the Great Debate, donation of $29.95, and we'll send the link straight to them. And if they want to download it or whatever they want to do with it, it's totally left up to them. But yes, we do have that, and it is awesome.
and it is available.
Okay, and then also I want to remind the listening audience that I have written 2 books. One, The Historical Origin of Christianity, which I came out 28 years ago, selling all over America, all over the UK, all over in the Caribbean, and all over in English-speaking countries. It's been out for 28 years. And then I've also, my second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. That's been out for 18 years, and that's selling in the same places. Now, The Historical Origin of Christianity, the thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form, been a race, creed, or color, by the name of Jesus Christ. That's the thesis of that book. I have a $5,000 award to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can use the discipline of history, repudiate what history, and I'm saying in the book, and to the listening audience, and to listening audience all over the world, that there's never been a man that ever walked ever in human form by the name of Jesus the Christ. The same thing goes for a prophet Muhammad. Same award is given to an individual using the discipline of history. Now, you got to use the discipline of history to repudiate me when I'm saying that there's never been a man that walked the earth in human form by the name of a prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. Now, you can't use what you believe. You have to use the discipline of history like I did. And you cannot use your faith in these various religions. No, you got to use history, the discipline of history, to repudiate what I'm saying about these 2 various religions: Jesus Christ, Christianity, Prophet Muhammad, Islam. And then let me go a little further. Every name in the Bible never walked this earth as human beings. Okay? It's mythology. It's based on mythology. All religions are kept in force by one's belief, okay, and their faith in these various religions. So, but belief does not give you knowledge. Faith does not give you knowledge. You have to do research in order for you to find out and investigate what's going on in these various religions, what you have been told from your childhood by your parents about these various religions. So I want to bring that out to the listening audience. Now, we're going to get into our subject for the evening. Our subject for the evening is who are the Arabs? Where did they come from? And what is the history of them? So you have to use the discipline of history like I'm doing. Not believe. And by investigative research, I can give you this information. But I have to lay the foundation. And on this foundation that I'm going to lay out for you about the Arabs, I'm going to give you a timeline to go along with that. Now, the Arabs, who are they? Who are the, and what is the beginning of what is known as an Arab? Okay? Let me say this about the Arabs. The word Arab is a nickname or a name given to who have embraced Mohammedanism, not Islam. Because it's time when they came into Arabia, there was no Islam. Islam is a religion based upon a book called the Quran. Mohammedanism is based upon the teachings of Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. And that was done in the 13th century. Okay? But we're going to get to that historically by me narrating a timeline with the foundation of human history to do just that. So let me start. The first timeline I'm going to bring the listening audience to is when the Greeks and the Europeans first came on the scene of history. And that was when they entered Africa, the continent of Africa. Okay? And we're talking about Alexander the Greek, who came out of the Balkan areas of Europe. And I'm talking about Macedonia, Greece. Okay? So we're going to start with them because that sets up the foundation and the timeline to get to these Arabs. Now, let me tell you about the land area that I'm going to place these Arabs in for the very first times now. And we're talking about Northeast Africa. Northeast Africa is called the Middle East today. Okay? The Middle East is a political name given to that area of Africa to set up and make that area, Northeast Africa, the land of the Bible and biblical characters. All biblical characters are non-humans. So they use that area of the world to set up that area, Northeast Africa, and they call it today the Middle East. That name, the Middle East, was given to that area after World War I. World War I, 1914, 1917. 1920, the British government was given a mandate by the League of Nations. The League of Nations today is called the UN. But with that mandate of that area, they changed the name for political purpose. So we'll get into that also. Now, let me describe in Northeast Africa today the countries that are over there today. You got Yemen, which is in the south of Northeast Africa. Above Yemen, you got Arabia. Arabia was divided in 1920 by the British government, and from that division of dividing a portion of Arabia, they created Iraq. So Iraq did not come into existence until 1920. Also, Kuwait, the same date. They created Kuwait from the land of that was Arabia at that time. And then Iran is over there in Northeast Africa. Now, you have Turkey there. You have Syria over there. You have Lebanon. You have Beirut over there. You have Palestinian, or the Palestine is over there. And you have cities over there. It's called Bethlehem, Jericho, Hebron, and Jerusalem. Is all over there in Northeast Africa. And that's where you find all those Arabs that we call, the people that we call Arabs today, who have embraced what is known today as Islam. They didn't practice Islam when they first came in. They had no religion when they first came in. Okay? So we're going to find out when they got a religion in their community. And also we're going to go into North Africa. We're going to deal, they are in North Africa today, in Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. They're all over there today. and they even have filtered down in the Sudan. So that's where they are stationed and headquartered today. But how did it get there? Let's go back, and I'm going to use, like I said, the foundation and a timeline to get us to who they are, where they came from, and how they got into Northeast Africa and North Africa today, and other places of the world. But mainly they are centralized in Northeast Africa, called the Middle East, and centralized in North Africa. Those countries that I've mentioned that's part of Northeast Africa, now called the Middle East today, and North Africa, which is Egypt, etc. Now, we're going to go back into antiquity. Antiquity means ancient times. And we're going to use the foundation and of history, and we're going to use a timeline that's attached to that foundation of history. So now, going to Macedonia, Greece, we're going to find, and you will see, where the world's first Europeans coming out of Macedonia, Greece, which is the Balkan area of Europe today, into Northeast Africa, today called the Middle East. They use the Asian Sea to do that, by navigating through the Asian Sea, through those different islands, to get and find their way into the land that we know today as Turkey in Northeast Africa. Alexander came into that area with his group of thugs in 333 BC. Now, mind you, BC dates are counted down, and today's dates that we live in are counted up. So they came in 333 BC. He plundered that land over there that is known today as Turkey and Syria. He plundered that land over there in Northeast Africa. And he stayed there about a year, and he left one of his lieutenants in charge of that land, where he went into using what we know as the Suez Canal today to cross from that area of North Africa into central North Africa. So he left one of his lieutenants in charge, Seleucus Nicator, was left in charge of that plunder in 332 BC after Alexander stayed in to Northeast Africa and came over there in 333. So now he's over in Egypt now for the very first time, meeting our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. And he saw the high civilization that was created there by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. He was in awe of it. He wanted to be made part of that civilization. Now, mind you, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, or no other group of people on planet Earth had an army. So people have asked me, why did the ancient Egyptians allow the Greeks to take over Egypt? They had no armies. They had no jails. They had no concept of having an army. What do you have an army for? To defeat other people? To dominate other people? Our ancestors were civilizers and not terrorizers. So they had no armies to run them out of their territory, out of their land. So they tried to get along with them, and seeing that they were not going to leave, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, learned the Greek language, and in order for them to communicate with the Greeks, they had to learn their language. So, and after learning their language, and by them being a literate people, creating the world's first alphabet on earth to make them the first literate people on planet Earth, they applied an alphabet to the Greek language. So the Greeks never had an alphabet, but it was the Greek language after being learned by the ancient Egyptians, that they used that language and applied an alphabet to it, because an alphabet makes an individual literate. With an alphabet, you're able to read, write, and spell. So that's how the Greeks got an alphabet, and it's called the Greek alphabet today, not from themselves, but by our ancestors learning that Greek language, and from that Greek language, they applied an alphabet to it. Now, the Greeks wanted to be made part of that grand and glorious civilization that was created by our ancestors. Our ancestors created the world's first and oldest civilization on planet Earth. So the Greeks want to be made part of it, but our ancestors did not race mix, so they were rejected. And the Greeks knew in order to control our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, they had to be made part of the sacred society of Egypt. So Alexander lived 9 years after entering Egypt in 332. He died in 323. Like I mentioned before, BC dates you count down, today's dates we count up. So anyway, after the death of Alexander, one of his army generals took over, and his name was Ptolemy I Lagi, called Sotar. The word Sotar means savior, but that goes into another history, which I have narrated many times on this show, Tarhaka Amani El-Bey's show. Anyway, this Ptolemy, the successor of Alexander, wanted to get himself admitted to the sacred society of ancient Egypt and be worshipped as a god alongside of the deities of Osiris, Osar, Isis, Aset, Horus, Haru. Those are the three main deities of the ancient Egyptians. So he wanted to be included in that recognition in the sacred society, temple society of ancient Egypt, but our ancestors rejected him. So what he did, he closed down all the temples throughout ancient Egypt except for the one in Memphis, Egypt. That temple in Memphis, Egypt, after the urging of the Melkite Coptic Egyptians. Now, mind you, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians are the ones that ran the government of ancient Egypt. So he terrorized them. And with this terrorization of the Melkite Coptic Egyptians, trying to appease the Greeks, the Melkites found this temple in Memphis, Egypt, to try to make this Ptolemy, the successor of Alexander, into a god. What they did, they took two of their deities, Osiris and Apis, the bull of Memphis, and came out with a composite name of Serapis. And they gave this composite name of Serapis to this Ptolemy, the successor of Alexander, with the attributes of Osiris or Asar, with the attributes now. So with that being done, he went to the secular community in Egypt and said, "Now, would you accept me as a god?" And they said, "No." So he commenced closing down all the temples throughout ancient Egypt, except for the one in Memphis, Egypt, that created by way of amalgamation of these two names of Osiris and Apis, the bull of Memphis, coming out with the name Serapis or Serapis, and he became Serapis. Now, Serapis is very important in human history. The reason why Serapis is very important is that today, as I speak, Serapis was created into the Christ the non-human, this Christ, or this Jesus the Christ as we know it today, came into creation at the Council of Ephesus in 431. And I'm going to modulate up to that point and explain to you how Serapis became this Jesus the Christ is non-human, and how this Serapis, how a mother was created for this Serapis at the Council of Ephesus, which is called the Virgin Mary, how this non-human, the Virgin Mary, was created. But anyway, that's the first steps to bring you up to who are the Arabs, where they came from, and how they got to where they are today. So now let's follow Serapis. The secular community rejected Serapis, like I said before. The Greeks, under the Ptolemies, now you had 13 Ptolemies after the first Ptolemy. In all, you had 14 Ptolemies. So every Ptolemy, the word Ptolemy means Greek ruler of Egypt. Greek ruler of Egypt. That's what the word Ptolemy means. So with that dynasty of the Ptolemaic dynasty, you had a total of 14 Ptolemies. And all 14 Ptolemies tried to get the secular community to accept this image that we know today as Jesus Christ, then known as Serapis, as a god in their community. See? So now, once the temples were closed down in Egypt by this Ptolemy, after being rejected as by the secular community in the Coptic Egyptian community took to their homes in order to continue their spiritual fellowship among each other and to continue to school their children, to homeschool their children, and keep their tradition and to keep their history and to keep their culture moving forward for the future. Now, after 302 years of trying to get this Ptolemy accepted in our African community by these different Ptolemies for 302 years, we come up to the time of the Romans. The Romans came in 30 BC. They came in by way of northeast Africa, okay? And they settled in that area. And they tried to get the secular community of the ancient Egyptians to accept this Serapis, but our ancestors held fast, and they refused to accept this Ptolemy as a god or a deity in their sacred society and community. Because, like again, I said that the ancient Egyptians did not race mix. They didn't race mix. So therefore, they refused to accept these Europeans in their sacred society. And why should they accept someone in their sacred society who were uncivilized savages, who had no alphabet, who were illiterate in their society? So, with the Romans coming in 30 BC, that trying to get Serapis accepted was continued on until the time of the Council of Nicaea I. Now, that from the time of this Ptolemy being given the attributes of Osiris in 320 BC was a time lapse of 645 years, from 320 BCE up until the Nicene Council of 325 BC. Now, mind you, all of the council meetings that were held in Northeast Africa, okay, in Turkey. In my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, I'll give you a map of Turkey showing you where all the places took place of the ecumenical council meetings took place in Northeast Africa. Okay, Nicaea 1, 325, Constantinople 1, 381, Ephesus 431, Chalcedon 451, Council of Chalcedon, the Council of Constantinople 2, 553, the Council of Hieria 754, the Council of Constantinople 3, 680, the Council of Nicaea 2, 787, the Council of the last ecumenical council, which was the Council of Constantinople 4, the Phocius Philippi Council meeting. But that goes into another history that I have narrated on this show sometimes back. But anyway, that's the foundation of these ecumenical council meetings that created the coming of these people that we know today as the Arabs. So now, here you have at the Council of Nicaea 1 in 325 BC. Now, what brought about the Council of Nicaea 1 in 325 BCE was the Donatist schismatic controversy, the donation of Constantine, and a strong statement by Arius. Now, those three historical events, which I'm trying to keep from talking so long and, maybe confusing you with so much information, that I'm going to skip that, over that, the Donatist schismatic controversy, donation of Constantine, and a strong statement by Arius. And I will go to, those are the three historical events that happened in history that caused the Council of Nicaea 1 to come about. Now, with a strong statement by Arius, Arius was a member of the secular community in Egypt. He said that Serapis, known today as Jesus the Christ, was a created creature, not similar to the Father being Osiris, a perfect creature, but a creature nevertheless. And those three events caused the Council of Nicaea 1 to come about. Now, when the Nicaea 1 ecumenical council came about in 325, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians tried to get Serapis inserted into the ancient Egyptian creed. Okay? So, the creed of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. So, with that being done, the insertion was that the Melkite Coptic Egyptian took out Heru, or Horus, as a son, S-U-N, and put in the S-O-N, Serapis, as being the son of Osiris and the son of Isis. You see? So that was done. And that caused what is known in history as the Homogeneous Creed, because they said that God the Father, Osiris, God the Son, now Serapis, the S-O-N, the same. God the Father, God the Son, the same, homogeneous. And that caused the second ecumenical council to come about in 381, which was 56 years after the first ecumenical council of Nicaea 1, that the Roman rulers tried to get this Moses Creed to be accepted in the secular community. So if they could get that accepted, then that means that the secular community have accepted Serapis as a god in their sacred society. But no, they refused to do that. So this moves us 56 years later into the Council of Ephesus, where Serapis was made into the Christ. In order for Serapis to get and be made into the Christ, he had to have a mother in order to have a human nature, because the Monophysites argued with the Melkite Copts. The Melkite Copts, like I mentioned before, ran the government of ancient Egypt. The Monophysites are members of the secular community who do not recognize Serapis as a god. They said that Serapis had an Osiris-like spirit, which is true, but no human nature. So in order to have a human nature, one has to be born through the body of a female. So at the Council of Ephesus, the Melkite Coptic Egyptian took out Isis out of that ancient Egyptian divine triad and gave the attributes to this created non-human created creature called the Virgin Mary. Okay, with her Ka. The word Ka means spirit. And they gave this Ka of Isis and the title of Isis, which is Goddess Mother, to now this created non-human, the Virgin Mary. And this non-human, the Virgin Mary, was amalgamated with this non-human called Serapis. And when this amalgamation was done, the Melkite Coptic Egyptian speaking Greek said, now this is the Christos. And in English, the word Christos means now this is the Christ. So this is how this Jesus the Christ came into supposed being at the Council of Ephesus. Now, let me go into from the creation of this non-human Jesus Christ by way of Serapis and by way of this non-human, the Virgin Mary. I'm going to go up 101 years later into Constantinople. Now, Constantinople was a city, a capital city created by Constantine in 330. He took the city of Byzantium in northeast Africa, in Turkey, and made it his capital city. He walled it up, double walled it up, and he called that double walled city, which was his empire headquarters, Constantinople. Constantinople today is known as Istanbul, Turkey, today in northeast Africa, called the Middle East. Now, that church, the world's first Christian church, was created there 101 years after the creation of this created creature, this Jesus Christ and his created creature, the Virgin Mary, the non-humans. So 101 years later in Constantinople, Justinian, who was the Byzantine emperor at that time, and his wife Theodora, asked and commissioned African architects and African builders to build them a church to honor Mary and Christ. So our African ancestors began to build and design what we know today as the Church of Mary and Christ, known then as the Church of Hagia Sophia, the Church of Mary and Christ. That was the world's first Christian church, the Church of Hagia Sophia. That was created in Northeast Africa, commissioned by Justinian and his wife, commissioning African architects and African builders to do so. So that was the world's, and that's how the world's first Christian church came about. Now, let me fast forward a little bit. We're going to go into when the first Arabs came into being. We're going to go into the year 1071. Where did they come from? Let me go and tell you this. They came out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan, as I speak, borders Northeast Africa, borders the country in Northeast Africa called Iran. Okay? That country of Afghanistan borders Northeast Africa, thus causing a group known as the Seljukian Turks to come from that area in 1071. So let me explain to you the 7 areas of the world where these Arabs came from as we know them today. How they got into Northeast Africa, how they got into North Africa. Coming out of Afghanistan, the first group came out of the Tora Bora Mountains of Afghanistan, in Afghanistan. That's the area where bin Laden lived and hid out for many years from the American government. So in that area came the first group that I'm going to mention out of the Tora Bora area of Afghanistan, out of the Caspian Sea area of Afghanistan, and out of Turkestan area of Afghanistan. And then I want you to know this, that Pakistan today borders Afghanistan. Now Pakistan and the Pakistanians are the same as the Indians of India, same thing, but they split off over the country or the area called of Kashmir. So they broke ranks with each other. So one is called Pakistanians, and the other one is called Indians of India. So, but they are the one and the same. But Pakistan borders Afghanistan. So now you have Arabs coming out of Tora Bora area of Afghanistan, Caspian Sea area of Afghanistan, Turkestan area of Afghanistan, and you had them coming from Pakistan area of that borders Afghanistan, and then you had them coming out of the Caucasus Mountain region of Afghanistan, the Caucasus Mountains that goes from Russia north into Afghanistan. You had them coming from that area. And then you had these same Arabs over there today coming from Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan and Armenia was annexed to the north of Russia in the 19th century. So you have those 7 different areas of the world where these Arabs today, as I speak, came from. Now, they came through Iran into Turkey, into Northeast Africa. So therefore, they disrupted the government of the Byzantine emperors. And when that happened, the Byzantine emperors, 25 years later, called for the first crusades to come about in the world. So the Seljukian Turks, coming out of the areas that I told you and mentioned to you, coming from Afghanistan and through Iran into Northeast Africa, thus terrorizing and intimidating and usurping land from the Byzantine emperors. So the Byzantine emperors, 25 years later, called for the world's first crusades to come about. In 1096, they called to Europe, those barons, those rich barons of Europe who had private armies for their own protection, to come into Northeast Africa and save the Roman Empire and to save Christendom, because they were afraid that these invaders over there, who were known then as the Seljukian Turks, would eventually break through the double wall city of Constantinople and seize the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia. So, with that crusade being called by Alexis I Komnenos in 1096, the first crusaders that finally got over there was Walter the Penniless out of Germany and Peter the Hermit out of France. But by the time they got over in Northeast Africa, their armies were so tattered that they couldn't do Alexis I any good at all. So the call was continued to go on and calling for the barons of coming out of Europe to send their armies to help save their empire. Okay? So now I'm going to go into, I'm going to go 69 years later after the Seljukian Turks came into Northeast Africa, intimidating and usurping land from the Byzantine emperors. I'm going to bring you up to the time of Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. See? So this is very important. Arabi was born in 1165 in Spain. He was born a Moor because the Moors were in Spain and they built Spain by way of bringing the civilization into that area. So they were over there, and that's another history. But anyway, to make it a story short, I'm going to bring you up again to Ibn al-Arabi. Ibn al-Arabi was born in 1165. He grew up to be a teacher, a philosopher, a clairvoyant, and an interpreter of dreams. He was a very highly respected man. So he came out of Spain into Northeast Africa and into North Africa. So he was all around in that area, teaching, philosophizing, and he picked up followers over there that follow his philosophy and his teachings. Now, in so doing, that was in into 1239, a year before he died. He died in 1240. A year before he died, 1239, his followers began to go all over in that area of Northeast Africa and Africa, teaching his philosophy. Now, 59 years later, here comes the Ottoman Turks, okay, who had took over from the Seljukian Turks, overran them, and came to power under Osmanli, who created an empire and named it the Ottoman Empire. Okay? So in 1300, under the Ottoman Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Turks, the sultans of that area, took and embraced the religion that we know today as Mohammedanism, after Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. Now, in 1300, they went around all through Northeast Africa, all where they had usurped the land territory of the Byzantine emperors, and all into North Africa, and they took a sword and put it to the throats of the people living in those areas, what I just mentioned, and said, Muhammad or die. In other words, you embrace Muhammad or I'm going to cut your throat. You're going to die. So quite naturally, if somebody put a sword to your throat, you're going to say, Assalamu alaikum, as quick as you can. So that's how in 1300 they began to use Mohammedanism, because Islam had not come into vogue yet, historically. It was Mohammedanism first. So, and this was done by way of what I just described to you by the Ottoman Turks in 1300. Now, these Arabs began to come in through the country of Iran. And I mentioned to you the names of the land areas and the name of the people that came into what is known as Northeast Africa and North Africa. And they settled in Arabia, Yemen, and in Arabia, see, an individual who really is settled in Arabia is where you get the name Arab from, which is a nickname. So they settled in Yemen, Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Beirut, Palestine, Hebron, Jericho, Jerusalem, and all in that area. That's where they are today, plus they're in the countries in North Africa. They're in Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania. So that's how they got there, and that's how they are where they are today. Today they have an Arab script, which is known today as the alphabet. How did they get that Arabic alphabet? Now, with these 7 groups that I mentioned coming from 7 different areas of the world, they came in with their own personal native dialects. So therefore, they could speak, but each other couldn't understand each other's dialect. So therefore, a standardized alphabet was created for them. In other words, you can put 10 of these people in a room, and they will speak. Now, you can speak now. But they could not understand each other's language or what they're talking about. So a standardized alphabet was created for them to learn, and that standardized alphabet is called the Greek alphabet. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? It's called the Arabic script, and that Arabic script was created by the Moors of Spain and North Africa, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, because, as I said before, our ancestors had the first alphabet becoming and making themselves the first living people on planet Earth. Now, if you get my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, you will find on page 132 in that book a alphabetical chart, and you can go to the area in that on that page 132 and find that alphabetic chart, and you will go all the way to your left, and you will find the world's first alphabet under the Egyptians, and then you got Greek, and then you got Latin, and then you got Hebrew. So, and then you can see how the Arabic script came into being from the original alphabet that was created by our ancestors. And so using that alphabet to create the Arabic script today has 28 letters, where the English alphabet only have 26 letters, and they got 28 letters with the use of diacritics that was added to what is known as the Arabic script. Now, that Arabic script was also used for decorating purposes. The Moors, being the world's first civilized people of the world, the word Moor is only a nickname given to the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, by the Spanish-speaking people, because they came out of Morocco into Spain. So they were called Moors. That goes into another history. And so the Arabic script is nothing but a standardized alphabet being taught to people that we know today as Arabs in order for them to communicate with each other by way of writing. So if I speak to you and you don't understand my language, I write it down what I'm trying to say to you and give it to you, because you can understand what I'm saying, and I can, and vice versa, you can do the same thing to me. So that, Brother Tarhaka, is how the Arabs got into being. And that's the original foundation of what we know as Arabs coming into the world and on the world stage of history. So I turn it back to you, my brother, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, Dr. Williams. All right, well done. And you were very, very thorough, and you covered all the bases: people, places, times, events, and literature. And I'm glad you put this information out. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are now officially open. Press 1 on your phone if you have something to say. If you have a question for our guest, just press 1 on the phone. That'll give me an indication, and I'll open up the phone line so you can get in to speak to our guest. We have a caller that's been here with us for a while, Dr. Williams. I'm going to open up his line at area code 609 and bring him in. Area code 609, you're on the air.
Yeah, I had a question about so the areas that you mentioned, like Jericho and Hebron, those areas that are now considered to be, I guess, Jewish. When did the Europeans first come into those areas to take it over? Like, was that when the Knights Templar came into that area, which was around the time of the Crusades, I guess, 1096 or something like that?
No, no. Like I said before, the Byzantine rulers had control of that area also, like I mentioned. You see, way before all this happened, way before the Knights Templars, way before 1099 when Godfrey and his brother Baldwin came into that area in 1099. You see, way before Seljukian Turks came in, way before any of those so-called Arabs came in there, you see. So, no, the answer would be no.
Okay. So the Seljuki, you saying the Byzantine Empire controlled it at that time in the the 10th century, 11th century. It was controlled by the Byzantine Empire, right?
Right. See, the Byzantine Empire started when Constantine took the city of Byzantium and turned it into his capital. And he called it Constantinople. That was in 330
right.
CE.
Mm-hmm.
And
they go back.
Time ago. See? And I narrated what happened in that city, the double-walled city, and I narrated when the world's first Christian church was set up in there to give you a foundation of what I'm talking about and what the subject is all about, and how the people got over in that area and where they came from, you see. So, so that's how that happened.
So the first parishioners in the church that you mentioned, the Hagia Sophia, were the same people that he called Turks or whatever were the first people that went to that church, or was it Europeans?
No, see the people that we call Arabs wasn't even on the scene of history. They didn't come on the scene of history until 1071. And the church was created in 532, finished December 27, 537. You see?
Okay.
Many, almost 500, over 500 years before they came in there. You see? So go ahead.
The people that were living there at that time were what people were living in Turkey? You said the Seljukian Turks or something. That's what you said, right?
Well, the Seljukian Turks didn't come into 1071. It had nothing to do with the church. Church was already established.
Who were there in 537 then when they finished the church? Who was living? What people were living?
It was the Romans and our ancestors, the Africans living, who were known then as members of the secular community and who were Africans. They were there. Let's say just the two groups, the Europeans under the Roman emperors, and other Europeans and Africans who were known then as the Melkite Coptic Egyptians. You know. Okay. Now you go ahead. I think if I'm hearing you right, you're trying to get to who was the first Christian. Is that what I'm hearing?
Christian. Right. The first people that went to that church, the Hagia Sophia. That's what I was trying to figure out. Who were those people that were the parishioners? Huh?
No, see, it was not a church. They didn't have church service like they have today, every Sunday. It's this once a year celebration to honor Mary and Christ. It was a festival happening over there. It's like you have December 25th over here once a year. You have the Mary and Christ is being celebrated, right?
Right. That's right.
That's once a year, right?
Yes.
Well, then once a year, every December the 27th, when they finish, that church is celebrating the finish of that church and the dedication of that church to Mary and Christ. They had a festival where people dressed up, people gave presents to each other, they had food, they celebrated all that day for that occasion. But the rest of the year, the masses of people did not attend that church. It was there.
Right.
So therefore, now, does that give you the answer?
Yeah. So between that time and all the way to 1400, that's when the Ottomans came in there and took it over, like the Ottoman Empire. The people that you were talking about that came out of Afghanistan and Turkmenistan and all these other places, Azerbaijan, like those are the ones that represent the current Turks that became the rulers of Turkey, right? After the Ottoman Empire, which was around the 11th or 12th, 1300 or something like that. And they took it over in Europe. So the Europeans, like the Romans and other Africans, were the people that occupied it, Turkey, like in that area before the current people that got there, that came out of, like you say, Russia and Afghanistan, Iran, all these other places, right? Is that how they got there? I mean, they study over the years from reading your book. What I was gathering is that they started increasing their power until finally they challenged it. They surrounded that double wall city church or whatever and took it over. That's when they made it like Islam, or they made it Muslim, because what you say is that the Islam really didn't come about until what you say the 18th century, 18th or 19th century. That's
okay.
What you say, right? Isn't
correct.
that correct?
Right. What I'm saying to you is that I'm trying to get you to understand the timeline that I laid out. The timeline I laid out was this. Let's go back to the Council of Ephesus, when the Serapis was made into the Christ by 431. When the argument was over whether Serapis had a human nature or not. In order to have a human nature, one has to be born through the body of a female. So the Melchite Coptic Egyptians took Isis, her title, and gave it to a created non-human, a created creature by the name of the Virgin Mary, with the car of Isis and the title of Goddess Mother, and amalgamated the two created creatures, Serapis and this non-human, the Virgin Mary, and came out with the name Christos.
Christ.
Right, which is in English. It was speaking Greek, and in English that means Christ. So that's how that happened. So therefore, when that happened, historically, the Melchite Coptic Egyptians became the world's first Christians because they recognized the two natures of this Christ.
Right.
Okay? So which is, they're called diphysitic Christians. So you look in the glossary of my book, Historical Origin of Christianity, and you'll see the word diphysitic. So they became. What's that?
But you have two types. You say diphysitic.
Yeah, diphysitic means the two. They recognize the two natures of Christ. Monophysitic means that the monophysites only recognize one nature in Christ. You see?
Okay. Right.
You got that?
Meaning that it's a created creature, like it's not a God. That's what they're saying, that it's not a God, the mono people, right?
Repeat that again, my brother.
The monophysites are saying that the Christ is not a God, he's just a human being, right?
No, he's not a human being, he's a created creature. Non-human.
Created creature. Yeah, created creature, right. That's what I'm saying. That he's a created creature. And the other ones are saying that he is a God, like that he's, that's what the differences are, right?
See, now, both of them recognize this Serapis as being a created creature. But the idea was to try to get this created creature made into a god to appease the Europeans, who at that time was the Romans.
Right. Okay.
And other Europeans, to try to get the Europeans a god. So they knew, the Melkites knew that this is a created creature because they created a creature. So in order to have a human nature, one has to be born through the body of a female. So they created a female by the name of the Virgin Mary. Okay. And amalgamated those two created creatures together, the Virgin Mary, the non-human, with the non-human Serapis. And with this amalgamation being done, they said, now this is the Christos. And they were speaking Greek. So then they're saying, in the word Christos, which is in Greek, in English it means, now this is the Christ. So that's how this Christ came about. But the Melkite Egyptians recognized to two natures, to two man-made natures in Christ now, because they made it that way. They created it that way. You see? So therefore they became the world's first Christians on earth, if you want to use that term, because they recognized the diaphysitic nature and the Osiris nature in this Christ now.
Okay, well, Dr. Williams, I got another caller with his hand raised at area code 646. I'm going to open up the line.
Okay. Area
code 646. You are on the air.
Hello.
646. Hello.
Hello.
Come on in.
Hi. Hi again.
Hi.
I'd like to say hi and thank you for having me. Say hello to everybody that's here, the doctor and the host as well, and the guests.
Okay.
And I am Earlene, and I do have a question.
Okay. Ask away.
Thank you. Okay, the question is for the doctor. Now, everybody is, I'm a believer in God. I believe in God. I was raised that way. My parents raised me like that. But, of course, as I got older, I have my own beliefs, and they're different from what my parents, made us go to church and made us believe, basically. So, but as years go by and everything, I still believe in the Creator. But I have a lot of friends that are saying exactly what you're saying. And I still don't get it. I don't get it because, okay, take for instance, they go way back to, like, first people on the earth. First people on the earth, they say, are black. We're the strongest race. We're uplifted so high. And I'll sum it up in a short term. Strong race of people that was created, essential to the earth, essential to God, connected, a strong connection to the sun, all this stuff, right? So if we was this strong race of people, so strong, stronger than any other race, how were we so easily to be infiltrated? Why are we on the bottom chain today? That's my only question. How we supposed to be this strong, this rich nation in the motherland and all of this, but I can't see to save my life. Yes, I can. I still, and I'm going to share that in a minute, but how was we so easily infiltrated to be brought down to the lowest?
Okay, you want me to answer that, Arlene?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, first place, I want you to understand that we as an African people, it's not the oldest race of people on earth. No human on earth can tell you the date or give you a date and a time when the world's first human appeared on planet Earth. No one can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's a mystery of life. No one can tell you when the first man and the first woman came on Earth as a human being. That's a no-no. But you can say about our ancestors that they, I'm talking about the ancient Egyptians, who lived in the continent of Africa and Egypt, the country called Egypt, had the world's first and oldest civilization on Earth. See? Had the world's first civilization on Earth. And how do you know that? Because they created the world's first alphabet. With that alphabet, one becomes literate. That's the first thing you learn in school. When you go to school, they teach you your alphabets, ABCs. So therefore, with that alphabet, you're able to read, write, and spell. That makes you literate. So I want you to understand that. Second thing that you mentioned is that they did not go around the world being powerful. They went around the world teaching. They didn't terrorize people. They taught others as they met them in their own environment, in their own countries, using their own culture that came from them and from their environment. They took their culture and enhanced their culture by elevating their culture by way of coming from their culture. So they did not go around terrorizing people. The only people on earth that terrorize people is the European. Yes. The European has terrorized every inch of this planet called Earth and every human living therein on this earth, including themselves.
Yes.
Okay? That's their nature. Our nature, our ancestors' nature, was not into that type of activities. They were civilizers. And you cannot be a civilizer and a terrorizer at the same time. The second thing I want to bring to you is this. Our ancestors did not have any armies or jails in their society. They didn't need any of. See? They didn't need that.
Okay.
Because when you have an army, you use that army to invade other people's countries and spaces and their culture. Diminish them down to what you want them to be. Okay? Again, our ancestors were not terrorized, they were civilizers. So therefore, they had no armies nor jails. Okay? And that's not into their culture and into their nature. So when you study ancient Egypt, those Africans who are our ancestors today, known in history as the ancient Egyptians, you will find them using principles of the universe. And those principles are called Mayothian Principles. What do they consist of? The principles of Mayot consist of truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. Wisdom is a law of the universe. That means that every human should continue to evolve by collecting and studying information to make themselves as a human being keep evolving. See? So they studied the laws of the universe. So they studied and practiced the underlying principles of Mayot, truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. They cannot go around and terrorize these people and other people. They had to do that because everybody coexisted with each other until the European came on the scene. Now, let's say me and my gang come to your house unannounced, and you open the door, and there we are standing there, and you say, well, okay, come on in, you know. Now, while we're in there, we pull a gun on you. What you going to do?
Well, because
you can't do anything. See? So now, our ancestors had no concept of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
They had no concept of that.
Right.
So therefore, that would be my answer to you. I hope that clears up some things in your thinking.
It does. It does, because we were civilized, and this is what I was told, and I do understand that. I connect that also with, but you're not going to agree with me. I connect that with, okay, in order to be civilized from the beginning of time, I'm not going to say of time, I'm going to just say of our culture, from the beginning, through each generation. To be civilized, we had to get that from somewhere. And that teaching, I'm thinking or believing in, it had to come from a higher power. It came from a higher power than us, because other than that, we would be just like them.
Okay, so you're talking about this higher power. You call it, what do you call the higher power?
Well, I call him God. He's my God.
Okay. All right, stop right there.
And because, yes, sir.
Stop right there, unless you want to say something. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I'm going to hurry up and put in right quickly. And, like I said, it's not us that do that. We didn't do that to ourselves. That was given to us. Let me say right quickly. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to bring in Jay-Z, Beyonce. That's not them that do that. They're just like us. It's something deeper that give them the ability to be able to stand on a stage and have millions of people filling them at one time. That's some unseen stuff. You don't go to school to learn that or read a book or nothing like that. That's unspiritual. Okay, so back to...
Well, see, that goes into another subject, what you're talking about, Beyonce and Jay-Z.
No, I was just
I understand what you're saying. You're trying to use that as a comparable.
How one person don't just do that. One person don't just do that. In other words, our parents didn't just teach us civilization back then. We had to get it from somewhere. And I believe it's spiritual-wise. It was given to us by God, because other than that, if we wasn't set aside and given that stabilizability for our culture, if we wasn't set to aside as a people for a God, then we would be just like them. But we were set to a side. You're my people. You're going to be special. I'm gonna do something special for you. See, you see? We didn't do that. We don't have human beings.
I understand what you're saying. I guess what you're saying is true to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. Our ancestors, those Africans, known in history as ancient Egyptians, are special people. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now,
yes.
What you're saying is something out there called God that's in us to make us act the way and think the way that we think and act the way that we're acting. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm talking about I have to go back to Jay-Z them.
Okay.
Jay-Z them didn't do this. He didn't just sit down in the studio and make that music and cause people. Keep your eye on that. Cause people all at once. Now we're dealing with a multitude of people, not just one person. How
so what do you think caused
that? God, that's some unseen stuff. See, Jay-Z didn't do it, trust me.
I got
he
you.
didn't do it.
I got you. Stop right
and
there.
And Beyonce didn't do her, she says, I'm not even going to get that deep. She says something come into her, and when she get on the stage,
okay,
she's not lying about that.
I got you. Stop right there.
Okay, we're talking about now, compare that to civilization of our people. We weren't taught to be civilized. We didn't teach each other to be, okay, look, y'all, we're going to do this way. We're gonna live in peace and harmony. We didn't teach each other that. We had to get it from somewhere, because other than that, we would be just like the Caucasian people. We would be walking around with guns.
I got you.
Right.
So let's get to this God thing. Hold it. I got you.
Okay.
Okay? Now, what do you call God? You call God. See, God is a man. No human on earth have ever seen God. It's just a belief. Okay, that's all it is. A belief.
You gonna let me?
Now,
can I get in there?
No, not yet.
Okay, yes, sir.
But if you want, go ahead, get in there. Go ahead.
Huh? Go ahead. Okay. A lot of, I'm not going to say y'all, I'm going to say unbelievers. A lot of unbelievers all my life have said that to me, and for a while it made me feel bad. Or maybe they got a point, you know. Maybe I am worshiping something that's, you know, not really here.
But have you ever seen God that you're talking about?
Yes. Until yes, sir. Until I begin to experience him. I have people to come and tell me, well, could you take me to him so I can meet him? I want to meet him too. See, all the things you guys are asking us, it's hard for us to explain it. You have to become of the knowledge.
I'm going to explain it to you early. I'm going to explain it to you, my dear.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First place, like Tarhaka always said, and I'm saying, that no human on earth has ever seen God. It's just a belief. Let's go back and explore who God actually is. You go to church, the minister tell you that God created man in his own image. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that God is a man. When people speak of the name or use the name God, they say he, his, or him. Is that correct?
Okay, but I have to say
Wait,
something,
now,
Doctor.
is that correct? Is that correct?
No.
People don't use the name. When they use the name God, they say he or his or him. Is that what you're saying? They don't do that?
But I have to go back to the image.
Wait, now, just a moment.
When I look in the mirror,
Sweetheart, I want you to follow me. I followed you now.
Okay, yes, sir.
To the people using the name God, say that God, they use his name as he, his, or him. Is that true?
Well, yes, sir.
Okay, and I told you that the ministers in these churches saying that God created man out of his own image. You agree to that? Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, when you go, the third stop I want to take you to is the dictionary. In the dictionary, under the name God, they said that God is a male deity. Okay, that's the first definition. And they tell you that the second definition is a supreme being.
Okay.
In the same dictionary, you look up goddess in there. They say a female deity, but never said that she is a supreme being. Okay? So now, the dictionary, the third definition of God is coming out of the dictionary, a male deity. Okay? You got that? Now, and they tell you that God created the heavens and the earth. Is that correct?
Yes.
God cannot do that because God has no power to do that. No human on earth can tell you how the sky, the stars, the planets, moon, sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity. They cannot tell you how those entities that I just named came into existence. Okay, they say God did that. This is what religious theology have you to believe, but God has no power to do that. I'm going to tell you why God has no power to do that. Okay? Then, next question is, when did the first man and the first woman first appear on planet Earth? Okay?
Okay.
Can't tell you that. That's called the mystery of life. The first entity about creation of heavens and earth, that's a mystery of life. Okay? No human would ever know or have answers for those two things. The third thing I'm going to bring you to is that no human can tell you where a person who is deceased, where their spirit go to. Can't tell you that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? That's called a mission. You know why you can't, no human on earth, I don't care how much education you have, how much money you have, and what station in life that you hold, or what race you belong to. You know why you can't give me answers for those three things I just mentioned? Because no human on earth can tell you or tell themselves how they got here as human beings. You can't tell me how Erlene got here as a human being. I can't tell you how Walter Williams got here as a human being. I can't tell you, Tarhaka can't tell you how he got here as a human being. No human can tell you that. Okay? It is told to you that your mother and father had a sexual intercourse, and that your father released his sperm that your mother's egg received.
Right.
And that sperm and that egg met, and it caused 9 months of incubation of development to bring you, Erlene, in this world, Walter Williams in this world, Tarhaka Bay in this world, and every human that you see walking this earth. You got 8 billion human beings walking this earth of all races, creeds, and color. No human on earth can tell you how they got here. The only thing that you know, that you found yourself here at a certain given age. The reason why you don't know how you got here, you cannot tell me at what month your eyeballs came in to being, where they came from, how they got to appear, where your toes, your legs, your feet, your fingers, arms, and so forth and so on. So now, at the end of the 9 months of incubation, here come Erlene into this world as a human being, attached to her mother's umbilical cord. That umbilical cord was cut by the doctor to separate you, Erlene, from your mother, thus leaving life surging through your body. Now, the umbilical cord served 3 things during your 9 months of incubation. It gave you food, water, and air for your 9 months of incubation. But now you don't know how you got into a human form of a being. You don't know that. So now I have to ask you, Erlene, at what conscious memory, now mind you what I'm saying, at what conscious memory in your mind did you find yourself here on planet Earth? What age did you find yourself here, Erlene?
Well, you know, that's because I mean I can go back as far as I remember, but
that's what I'm talking about. Okay. That's exactly what I'm talking about. As far as you can remember.
Okay, well, it was before kindergarten. It was before kindergarten, so I'm gonna say at least 4 or 3 years old. I can go back that far.
Okay, stop right there, Erlene. See, this program that Tarhaka Bay produces and have me on as a guest is to provoke thought. Mind you, provoke thought.
Right.
Now, you can only go back to your conscious memory of that you being conscious at the age of 3 or 4 years old. Now, from 0 to 3 or 4 years old, you have no conscious memory of yourself, do you?
No, not at all. Okay. Well,
true?
a little bit back further, because I remember being on the floor.
Back as far as you want to go. I'm waiting. Go ahead.
I just want to say it like this. I can remember being on the floor, laying on my stomach, and I remember these feet walking past me, and they kept saying, "No, she's not going to get it if she don't get up and walk." I remember.
What year was this? What year was this, my dear?
I'm just telling. Okay, if I'm born in 62, I'm going to say 3, 4, 64, 63, 60. 63.
What age were you,
sweetheart? Like a year. I was like a year. Maybe I was like a year. And you asked me how far can I go back.
Okay, fine. You can go back. Hold it earlier. You can go back a year in your memory that you found yourself here on Earth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, stop. So from 0 to 1 year, you have no conscious memory of Erlene, do you?
I get you.
Okay, you got me?
Yes.
So now, you found yourself at 1 year old living geographically where, Erlene, on Earth?
At 1 year old. With
where were you living?
With my mother and father. In the household of my mother and father. In what city or what state?
Yes, that's geographically. Where were you living?
Well, okay, I can tell you now, but if I'm see, you're trying to confuse me. Okay, I was born. I was in the house. I was in California, Los Angeles, California, with my mother and father.
Earlene, stop.
Yes,
you say
sir.
You found yourself here consciously. You can remember back as 1 year old, right?
Yes.
Where were you at 1 year old? Geographically, on Earth. Where were you?
In Los Angeles, California, in my parents'
house. There you go, Los Angeles, California. You found yourself here 1 year old, age-wise, geographically in Los Angeles, California, belonging to a certain race of people. And those people were called Negroes. Is that correct?
Then they were, yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. They were called Negroes, right?
Yes, okay.
Now, take your experience. I found myself here at 4 years old on planet Earth. Tarhaka said he found himself here at 3 years old on planet Earth. Okay, I found myself here in Chicago, geographically. I was born here and miseducated here. Tarhaka found himself in Jacksonville, Florida at 3 years old. Okay? You found yourself in Los Angeles, California at 1 year old, geographically, belonging to a certain race of people called Negroes. Now, I told you there are 8 billion humans walking this earth as human beings, living on planet Earth, of different races, creeds, and color. Every human walking this earth has the same experience that you and I had, or Tarhaka had. Okay? The Chinese cannot tell you how he got into China as being a Chinese. He found himself in China as a Chinese. The Indians of India cannot tell you how he got into India as an Indian. He found himself there as an Indian. The African cannot tell you how he got into Africa. The African, he found himself as an African. The European cannot tell you how he got into Europe as a European. He found himself there. Okay? So therefore, you speak about God. Okay? God is a man. You want me to tell you who God is? I'm going to tell you, Earlene. Every human on earth, I told you you got 8 billion humans, right? Every human on this earth has a personal God. That's a man. Because everything indicates about God as being a man. And you know who your personal God is or was? Your father. That impregnated your mother. That's your God.
Okay, that's my God. But who is his God? Who is his God? Who is my father's God?
It goes back further. It goes back
his father.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. It goes back to the time of the question I asked you. When was the first man?
That's
Stop,
a whole
Earlene.
lot of gods.
Stop. I'm trying to answer your question. It goes back to the time when I told you that the first question has to be asked, when was the first man and the first woman first appeared on planet Earth? How did they get? Who created them? The answer is, don't know. A mystery of life. So that question that you asked me, hold it, Earlene. I know you're trying to hold on. I understand that. And it's something new to you that you still want to hold on to.
Sir.
So you have to think about it, what I'm telling you now. I'm trying to provoke thought if I can. If I can provoke thought now. I may not provoke thought in you. I have to say, okay, Earlene.
I appreciate your patience with me.
I'm patient with you, sweetheart. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate your patience with me. I appreciate it.
So what I'm trying to tell you, that every human has a personal God. Now, where your mother and father come from, where my mother and father come from, I don't know. Because I don't know how I got here. So how can I tell you how others got here when I don't know how I got here? You see? So therefore, God is a man. Everything indicates and used about God indicates that God is a man. The preacher said that God created man from his own image. Okay?
Right.
And the dictionary said God is a male deity, going back to a man again. Okay? And and people use the term God. When they use that term God, they say he is a him, going back to a male again. So I'm going to break down who God is in your life and every human's life. You got 8 billion humans. Every human on earth has their own personal God. I had my own personal God. My father, who provided his sperm to impregnate my mother's egg, was my God. My mother is my goddess. Okay? Your mother is your goddess. Your father is your God. That's who God is. So take it from there, Earlene.
Okay. Just one more, right quickly, while we're on it, and it's highly right now. Wouldn't you say all these people are on the same thing? And I know probably once upon a time you were too. They believed in God. And it's not just a belief. I can share experiences with you when I knew I'm the only one in the house and there's no other human being in that house. But that feeling, now there's millions of people can share lots of different experiences with you. And we're on this thing where we could say, okay, if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people say the same thing, maybe I better start opening up my eyes. Something's true about that.
Same thing based off, Earlene, they're saying the same thing based off of belief. See, belief doesn't give you knowledge because you believe.
But I'm in the house by myself. I didn't ask to believe, okay, what was this I'm feeling? I didn't see it either. I can't explain it. That's that mystery. That's that mystery you were talking about. Any other person that believes in God, he could share with you and experience.
What you felt, and I'm trying to tell you what you felt, I don't know. But
please tell me.
Most likely it's your spirituality that's indwelling inside of you that was given to you as a gift from your mother and father. See, your mother and father gave you a gift of life, and with that life came spirituality that makes life in you and other humans. You see? So it's a natural feeling, okay? But
that's
belief
natural.
when you use the word belief, that means that you don't know, okay? Belief does not give you knowledge because you believe it. Okay. Don't give you knowledge. I can believe that you Earlene is 100 years old. I can believe that, but that's not based in facts. I can believe that, but it's not true. So belief, it's very dangerous to believe in something. See, religions are passed from one generation to the next generation by the parents of that child and that child's early innocent age of development, because that belief in Christianity and God and whatever religion that they want to push on this child came from their parents. And from their parents that idea came from their grandparents and so forth and so on. So you have to, all we're trying to do is for you to provoke thought, to sit down and think about our conversations when we go off the air. Think about our conversation that we're having now.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And you'll find yourself going in a different direction if you want to, if you want to grow. That would be part of your growth. You see?
That's why I'm here. I'm hungry. That's why I'm here.
Well, we're feeding it to you, my dear. We're feeding it to you.
Okay.
Whether you accept it or not, it's up to you. We're not trying to force anything on you. We're just bringing facts.
I know.
Listen to what facts are. We're bringing facts to you which are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions, silences dispute, supersedes predictions, and facts always ends the argument unless an individual don't want to know the facts.
Right.
Well,
it's going to be hard, but
a lot of people, like you had just said, Dr. William, what happened is belief is, man, that's a very dangerous thing. To me, it's a damnable heresy because I was victimized as a child as well. And they took me to the church, and and I'm looking at this white guy up on the wall, supposed to be Jesus Christ, and and all this foolishness until I start dealing with educating myself, and looking at the facts and calling it what it is, so I was able over a period of time to unshackle the spirit of belief, the force of belief, and start dealing with facts and evidence, or something that I could point to. And once I started doing that, I became free. It set my mind free. It sets me free because I'm no longer burdened under the belief. I did an investigation on the Bible. I did an investigation on the God concept, and I did an investigation on religion itself. Read the Bible from cover to cover 7 different times during my lifetime. I even took a college course on it, but we're still having a problem because I'm looking at the preachers. I'm looking at Jim Jones murdered 900 people, and they believe.
Yes.
And the David Koresh, he wouldn't even let the people out of the building and set the building on fire and kill all the people in there. Rather let them go. All these because of what you believe in. And a person will pull up in a truck and loaded with explosives and holler about Islam and blow up all this stuff because of what they believe. So tonight, Dr. Williams was able to give us a breakdown on the history, people, places, times, and events, the actual dates, and the actual location, when it happened, who done it. These are the historical facts. So when it comes to belief, if I'm going to believe in something, it's definitely going to be me, because I come to the conclusion that my blood is inside my body. My teeth are in my head. My eyes are in my head. My bones are in my body. My nervous system is in my body. My circulatory system is in my body. All this is internal. But now when you tell me about God, now we're talking about an external concept. We're talking about something that I've never seen in my life. I can't verify it. I'm not going to tell you nothing about what I feel and blame it on God. I ain't going to do none of that. The first thing we have to do is get the definition of God. Let's get the facts about it. Let's define it. Let's get down to brass tacks on that. Then we'll deal with religion, where it came from. Then we'll deal with the Bible, who wrote the New Testament, who wrote the Old Testament. Let's get the facts on it. And then over a period of time, you're able to turn loose the belief concept. Because the way I see it here recently, we got all these thousands of churches all over the United States, but white folks came along and said, well, we have a coronavirus. We want all the churches shut down. Well, it was at that point that God or Jesus was supposed to jump in there and say, well, no, you can't shut my house down. You can't do that. But that's exactly what they did. And then it took some of the pastors in jail who insisted on believing, you see. So my question about that situation, well, where was God then? And if you go in a lot of churches, you see the white Jesus hanging on the wall, and ask yourself a question, would white folks put a photograph of a big black Jesus hanging on their wall in their churches for their wives and children to see? The answer is absolutely not. So when we deal with reality in the face of reality, and we look at this thing from a factual position, things get being a little bit different. But the belief part about it, we can call it what we want to call it, but the fact still remains the same. I've never seen him in my life. Never seen God. Never seen Jesus. Never did any of that. We see all the images that I ever seen of Jesus Christ was European. And Dr. Williams, just got to explain to us how that all came about. It started over there in Egypt. Alexander the Greek came in Egypt. He gave you the whole breakdown.
I heard him. He explained a lot too. I had him on my speaker in the house. He explained a lot. He broke it all down, and I'm sure I know there's more.
Another thing, Arlene, is this: you got to they call the church the house of worship, and worship what? When you go into the church, you got African people bowing down to a dead white man on the cross that don't look like you. That image don't look like you, and then you complain about white supremacy. On that cross, that dead white man on the cross is a symbol of white supremacy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Why are you bowing down to that?
No, I'm past that. I told you as I got older.
I'm not talking about you. Okay, I'm not talking about you now. Why are we as an African people going to these churches bowing down to our enemy on the cross? And you call that enemy your God, our God. Oh, that's my God and Savior, Jesus the Christ. That Jesus Christ don't look like you. Like Tarhaka said, and I asked the same question. The symbol of white supremacy, the icon of white supremacy is institutionalized in every Christian church throughout America and throughout the world. And that symbol and icon of white supremacy is hanging on that cross called Jesus the Christ. Again, I ask the question, do you think that a white family would take their children into a church where a big black African Jesus is hanging on the wall and teach their children and family that black Jesus on that wall is their God and Savior? Hell no. Okay? Then why are we constantly doing this? Oh, Jesus. Okay? So when you embrace a religion, guess what happened to your mind, Earlene? You incarcerate your thinking. Listen to what I'm saying. You incarcerate your thinking. You know what incarceration means? That means that you limit your thinking. So come out of it. Come out of it. You don't need that. The second question is, ask these African Christians, what is the name of your God that looks like you? And I have never given the answer to that.
Well, okay, can I jump in right quickly, Dr. Williams?
Sure.
I know I'm going to have to keep coming back for teaching. I can't get it all in one session, but I appreciate your efforts. I really, really do. But here's the thing. Like I said, I'm far from. We don't even study that no more. I left the church. I don't even go to church no more. But I still have these beliefs. What walks with me, what talks with me, and you know why? It's probably because humans have let me down so much. Now, wait, let me say it. Let me get finished. Humans have let me from my father to my mother, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, you name it, next door neighbor, school peers. Human beings have let me down so far to maybe so. Maybe it is that I have high hopes that there is a God that's not like human beings. I would love for it to go and live some. I was sharing it on my show not too long ago. I wish the people that, people that are righteous people, don't want to murder people, don't want to kill, can all be put on a whole nother earth and let these people here go at it. We could just go see, that's where I'm at with it. So I think my hopes are so strong that there is a God, and one day he will come. And I don't want to see no human being. Wait, hold on. I don't want to. When he do return, I don't want to see no human being who I've been let down before. I want it to be a non-human being. No,
well, if you're not a human being, you wouldn't accept it. You would run for your life.
Come from, and if he is a human being, I'm just going to just fall down and say, well, I'll be damned. Here we go with another human being. Here's another letdown. So
okay, listen, Ernie, let's stop it there because we run out of time. We've got a limited time. I want to give my email out and so forth and so on. Now, here, the reason why and what happened to you is that you were never taught to believe in Earlene.
Mm-hmm.
You were taught to go outside of yourself and believe into an entity, such as that's connected to a religion, such as the Jesus Christ, etc.,
yes,
etc., believing in a God. Now, what they've done to us in the old world is that they call Jesus the Christ, the Son of God, and that God is the Father of Jesus. So therefore, I and my Father are one. So they're taking your mind and directing it to the belief in Jesus the Christ, his white image, his dead white man on the cross. So that's what they have done to you, because they never taught you to use.
Not me, not anymore. I don't want to talk about colors no more.
Wait, now you have to talk about colors.
My God is not whitehead and black. He's
white supremacy is out here.
Time.
Let's face reality. There's a lot of things you don't want to face, but it's out here in face, okay? And you're trying to get understanding of what's in your face. So with that, Earlene, we're gonna have to cut it off because we're gonna. Is that correct, Brother Talk? We have to cut it off.
Yeah, we're down to 13 minutes, and you want to Earlene, you wrote a book.
What's that again?
I'm gonna share it. I thank
like
you so much, but am I? I'm breaking up. Well, because Tahara had promised me he'll give me a few minutes on his show to promote what I was doing, but I want to come back again. I want to come back with more time, and because now I got to let this soak in. I got to go to the laboratory and dissect some stuff. I'm serious. And I'm glad I live alone because I can do it. I can dissect. I'm serious. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you're on here.
It's beautiful.
And we'll let you know the next time we'll be on the broadcast. Dr. Williams, you want to give us your how people get a hold of you and tell us how they can get a hold of your books?
Yes. You can contact me through my email. My email is ancientegyptian@msn.com. ancientegyptian@msn.com.
MSN.com.
Ancient Egyptian, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN @msn.com. And if an individual wants to email me and wants to talk to me and converse with me by way of a phone, when you email me, put your phone number there, and I'll call you back, and we can take it up by conversation from that point. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now,
and I want to throw in right quickly, I did that with you, Tahara, last night, about an hour or two after we got off the show. And I sent you an email and my phone. Huh? It didn't go through. It didn't go through at all. With the email that you gave me, it didn't go through at all. So, because I sent you my number so we could talk about it.
It came over to my email address. I got your email.
Oh, you got it? What it sent back to me and said no such. Well, great, good. Okay, so Dr. Williams, I'm gonna send you one as well. Okay, because I'm going to check out your books and stuff.
Email me if you want me to talk to you by phone. I'll be glad to do that.
Yes, sir.
Just put your phone number there. Anyway, you can purchase my two books, The Historical Origin of Christianity, which is thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ never existed. And my second book is The Historical Origin of Islam, whereby I'm saying that the name or the man or the created creature called Muhammad never existed. Those are my two books, and they can be purchased by way of from Amazon or by an African bookstore in your community where you live, or through any bookstore in your community where you live, or you can contact my personal distributor, at the Underground Bookstore in Chicago, Brother Yoel. You can contact him at area code 773 768 8869.
Okay, wait a minute.
88.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 773 768 8869. The Underground Bookstore in Chicago.
Okay.
So that's how you can contact me by email. That's how you can purchase my books, and we can go from there.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you so very much. I thank both of you guys. Thank you for having me.
Okay, and thank you for being on. And I hope we provoke thought where you can go and think for yourself.
Yes.
Believe in yourself. That's the first person on earth that you should have been taught to believe in is yourself. Okay?
Right.
Don't go outside of your spirituality and give it away to some entity or something that you never seen before.
Okay.
See? Keep it inside you, because when a person goes to church, a parishioner that goes to church don't have to think. All they come in with is a belief and a faith in their belief. And they're given a package to believe in. They're giving you this dead white man in that package called Jesus the Christ. They're giving you this God that no human on earth has ever seen. And they're giving you a Bible which is worthless. Take it to the nearest garbage can and get it out of your life and throw it in the garbage. Okay?
Wow.
So that's what has been happening to us as the African people. That's the reason why we have not advanced any further than what we are, and that's the reason why we don't know who we are as an African people, because we don't know who our ancestors are. Our ancestors are the greatest people that's ever walked this earth, known in history as the ancient Egyptians. Okay? You don't believe how great how great they are. Look on the back of your dollar bill that you carry around in your pocketbook and your purses every day.
Right.
On the back
Why
of your
is
dollar
it there?
bill, you will find the picture of the Great Pyramid. That is the greatest monument ever been built by man. And it was your ancestors, our ancestors, those Africans in Egypt, who built that Great Pyramid.
So why is it on the back of a dollar bill, though? Why put it there?
Because this country that we live in today, called the United States of America, is a replica of ancient Egypt. It's all around you. Going to Washington.
Wait, I did hear that. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I did hear that. Yes.
Okay. Well, then there's a lot for you to learn early. Open your mind, sweetheart. Okay.
We'll
and
try
then
to.
you speak about God.
To.
God has not done anything for us or humanity. You go into this church and you pray to God. I mean, you come out of these churches, this white male who you pray to on the cross allow us Africans to be put into slavery in this country. You go into these churches and you pray to this white God. And when you come out of these churches, this white God allows this white male out here to lynch us as a people. Where's God then? Where's this God when this white male is out here making us and trying to reduce us down to non-humans? Okay? Things like that. So I can go on and on and on. Okay?
Yeah.
So where is God? Think. See, this program is to provoke thought. Okay?
Right.
So now, if you can't think, then our information won't do you any good. It won't do you no good. You might as well say, okay.
I just got to do it alone. Let me do it alone. I got to soak some of this in.
Okay, fine. You have plenty of time, Sister Earlene, and I wish you the very best of luck in doing so. Okay?
Me too. I wish you the best as well. And we'll be getting in touch soon. Everybody enjoy the rest of their evening. Okay. Right. Bye-bye.
All right,
Hotel.
Mayothian Hotel. Okay, Dr. Williams, we're down to the last 5 minutes. And is there anything else that you want to say in closing?
Well, I hope that the people listening to the audience got information out of what I have narrated to them and impart it to them by way of using the discipline of history, the discipline of human history. See, not belief based off of, I gave you a narrated this history based off of human history, facts, stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinion. Silences disputes, supersedes prediction, and facts always ends the argument. So I hope that the listening audience learned something. I hope I was able to be an instrument in bringing them information that will provoke them to think. So that's it. Now, all this other stuff about where the Arabs come from, by way of any technical so-called information, is false. Because I've heard some of the narrations that you had played over the air one time, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and I disagree with all that. See, they never tell you where these people actually came from, okay, and how they got to be Mohammedans, how they got to be Muslims, and so forth and so on. So I gave it to you straight. I gave it to you historically. I gave it to you real. I gave it to you by way of facts. And I hope they got something out of it, and something that they can take away and think and study using the information I gave them. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you, my brother, and I appreciate you being on, Dr. Williams. And I guess we'll be coming back on the 28th for this month. Yes. You think? Okay, all right. Well, anyway, I certainly appreciate you being on, and I'd like to say Mayot Hotep, my brother.
Mayot Hotep, my brother.
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Walter Williams, the author of Historical Origins of Christianity and the author of the Historical Origins of Islam. And don't forget the great debate. We got your downloads ready. Just go over there to newdataelimination.org and get your copy of the great debate. And because that's something that you really got to see. But anyway, I'm going to close out. And
every black person on the planet who has been exposed to white supremacy, and the assumption is every black person on the planet has been, even when they haven't been in contact with white people directly. They've been exposed to the white culture indirectly. White culture is about white supremacy. Now, what does white supremacy do? It teaches people of color that if you are a male, you cannot be a man, period. Not in the system of white supremacy. And you're not going to be treated like a man, ever. Now, you can walk around and think that you're a man, but that's between you and you, strictly between you and yourself. Because no white person has an obligation, if you're a black male, to treat you like you are a man. And it's logical simply because in the system of white supremacy, it's impossible for a black male to be a man. It doesn't make any difference how old he gets or what he knows or what kind of connections. That can't be done. I just start with myself. I'm not eligible, not qualified to be a man. Why? Because I was born in captivity. That's why. When you're in captivity, when you're a prisoner of war, you are strictly that and nothing else, a prisoner of war, a victim of white supremacy. And you don't have another title. You can give yourselves all kinds of titles, which is why black people love titles. We give ourselves all kinds of titles. We give each other all kinds of titles. Some titles, it's not as bad as it was in the old days. I say bad, if you want to use that word. But some people used to say professor, reverend, most high. I mean, before you ever get to a name, you would have about 40 titles. You know, when somebody introduces you, if you're supposed to be what you call a big shot Negro in the old days. This is not new. This goes way back. That struggle. Oh, I'd just love to be a man. I mean, what can it take? But by this generation, what you call the new millennia, most young black people have looked around. They have looked at the people that came before them who, since the 1960s, the white supremacists have done a rough job on black malehood. First of all, giving them an option that you can continue to be a big boy, or if you really want to get some material benefits, put on some gold slippers and skip around, and grin all the time and all like that, and have a little money in your pocket. Now, you can be a black girl if you're a black male. You can be a black girl, but you cannot be a man. You will never be a man in the system of white supremacy. Now, they have put that in cement. They have written, or rather in steel, or whatever the hardest subject, or diamond. The white supremacists have put that philosophy out here since the 1970s. That's the benchmark that I give it. All over the world, and they're spreading it. They're saying, you're not going to be a man. You're a black male, and you think you're going to be a man on my watch? On my watch? This is the voice of the white supremacists now, racist man and racist woman. Say, that's not going to happen. Say, now, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and all of that, they said that that's what they're going to make you out of, but it's not going to happen. Now, you can talk it, but you make any move to make that real, and you're going to wonder what fell on you. Now, they have made that clear to all of us, and the young black people have picked up that signal, and they say, well, if I can't be a man and I don't want to be like my sisters, I don't want to switch around all day looking for a male, and I pretend to be a female or try to switch over and be one if they can operate on me and make me one, because then things become easier. I guess, I hope, but I definitely can't be a man because I'm in big trouble if I try to be. Then what can I be? Well, the white supremacist said, well, I'll give you another outside option. You can go around and pretend that you're a man by doing harm to other black people. That's cursing out black females, calling them names and all like that. Write songs about